Thank you, Dominic. Thank you. And good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on December 5th for what is, I believe, our 6th Community Voices Forum. The forums are opportunities for members of the community to have a chance to stand up in front of the public and have their say for a couple minutes. It is not the entirety of our public input process. We know that that doesn't work for a lot of folks for a lot of reasons. Some people want more interaction. For those who are doing that, we hope that you'll join us next week. We're planning interactive forums between myself, the county administrator, the police chief, the sheriff. That'll actually be an opportunity to not only answer questions in real time, but to give you some of the thoughts we've been having while we've been listening to your concerns these last 6 forums. The concerns about demilitarizing the police, concerns about the SWAT team, concerns about tactics, the concerns about behavior of individual officers, as well as the broader culture, and our opportunities to reimagine, rework, reinvent all of the above. So, but this is a necessary part of it. You can go on the YouTube channel and you can watch presentations that I gave, a presentation the chief gave, a presentation the sheriff gave, a presentation the county administrator gave, that can give you a sense of what is the current baseline. You can then watch past Community Voices forums. You can also direct, and I hope you do, direct people to give their input through their focus groups, which is a more interactive setting. And also the surveys. Some folks, public speaking is a big barrier, but the opportunity to put your thoughts down in words and is really important. So I thank you for being here this morning. I look forward to hearing what you have to say. I do want to say just the opportunity to speak publicly about some footage that we released yesterday. So a couple weeks ago, one of our sergeants, Sergeant Slattery, was caught on his own body camera footage saying, making really claims and bragging about excessive use of force and tampering with evidence. Really the two largest betrayals of trust that you can have from a police officer and from a police department. I mean, those two things run to the heart of what we expect police to do and to be. And was really troubling. So when the sergeant turned himself into the chief suspended him immediately. We are conducting an internal investigation, one that is going to be a bit quicker than other internal investigations. We have to interview dozens of people or do evidence collection. The evidence we have is already there. So we decided to release that footage, release a couple statements, and as soon as the IA is formally, internal investigation is formally done, we'll issue discipline. So I know that many of you, I watched the forum yesterday. I know that this is troubling to you. And I'm sure some folks want to speak about it this morning, and I encourage you to, but I just wanted to say that up front in case anybody on the forum had not heard about why people are upset. And it is really upsetting. I mean, we watched the footage, it's just really upsetting. But if you're here to talk about other things, broader reforms, reinventions, you think we should explore other models from other communities, or even just your experience. This is not a place where you have to have a solution. You can just tell us how you're feeling. So with that, I'll hand it over. If you have signed up to participate, just raise your hand under participants. Dominic will then put you in a queue, and everyone will get a chance to speak. And again, we all the folks in the internal resource group review all of these meetings, and as we continue with more public forums, but also continue to flesh out what ideas we're going to propose to the Common Council and County Legislature, all of your thoughts will be included in that mix. With that, I'll hand it over to Dominic.
Great, thank you, Mayor. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with the list of folks who have signed up to speak, and we'll let folks on one by one. So you should be able to see my screen now. And the first individual who will be speaking this morning is Josephine. Josephine, are you there? Josephine, you should be able to unmute your computer. If you have any technical difficulties, I will let the next person on and then return to you afterward. But Josephine, you should be able to use the unmute button and lend your voice.
Thank you.
Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay. All right. I have just sort of random thoughts so far. I haven't gotten really far on being clear, but I just want to say that we need to think about what is a crime in this community and what do we want to do about such things. And I also want to say that the community includes people who work for the police department. And I would rather we don't call them the police, but use person first language, like this person, John, he works for the police or something. Wait, I actually, all right. We need to decide what a crime is, how serious it is, and what we should do about it if someone doesn't abide by things we think are important. But maybe the person doesn't need to be arrested and put in handcuffs. Maybe they need to take a shower, a place to take a shower, or a way to make money, or guaranteed income, or even help with raising their children. We need a coalition of community members who want to make these things happen. And that includes people who work at the police station. Can we form a coalition that includes everyone? And I have a couple of more random thoughts about community safety. Do we want an occupying force who regards citizens as the enemy? Do we want people walking around carrying a lot of hardware, including weapons, as a way to maintain safety? When a person in the police department does something harmful to our community, why can't the community decide what the response should be? And can we imagine a town where nobody has a gun? Is there such a town in the US? Let's just try to find out. We don't want to reform the police. We want to change the system. That's all.
Thank you, Josephine. Next up will be Noah.
Hello, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
All right. I have a couple matters I want to address. The first being that over this summer, the City of Ithaca solicited public input on budget decisions for the upcoming budget season. And I participated in that forum and then looked at the results of it, which were published as a PowerPoint presentation on the city website. And the individual inputs that many people wrote about policing were not included and were not detailed. And that is something that I take very seriously and think that needs to be addressed because those decisions were not reflected in the budget, and our input on the budget needs to be fleshed out so that people can see it, because that's feedback that could be saving lives in our community. And secondly, I would like to address the issue of police unions and the entrenchment of our policing and our governing in their power, with internal training programs emphasizing warrior mentalities, and all the issues around policing. The way our government upholds a culture of silence around police wrongdoing is too large an issue to be ignored. And we can't just put band-aids on the problem when this is the source of it. We've seen time and time again when elected officials and the chief of police are backing up or only slapping the wrists of police officers who are verbally and physically abusing citizens, and the lack of accountability for all the actions that are in the public eye as well as those that are not is very dangerous. This task force needs to address the issue of power and who gets a voice, and whether we're simply protecting police unions and those who work for the police department, as well as the system as a whole, rather than citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Noah. Other individuals who'd like to lend their voice this morning, please use the raised hand feature here on Zoom, and I'll keep a list of those who'd like to speak, who's up and who's on deck. We'll give it some time for folks to raise their hands. Thank you again to all of you tuning out this morning, as well as those of you who've joined us in past forums as well. I'm going to type up a couple of your names and I'll let you on one at a time. First up is going to be Marquand Frederick.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't really have to say much. I just wanted to address an article that I read the other day that basically said that the sheriff planned in 2019, the sheriff planned on implementing a de-escalation training that was geared toward providing mental health services and first aid courses to their officers through the National Council for Behavioral Health, which would allow them to recognize emotional situations of like distress so that they can better handle and de-escalate incidents with mental health patients. However, the sheriff couldn't promise that it would be able to be an annual training. So I was just basically saying that I believe that this is something that needs to be brought forth and taken advantage of each year, because I know that in Ithaca, the city of Ithaca, mental health and substance abuse and chemical use disorders are like a big problem. And I feel that since instances that involve mental health patients increases the likelihood that the use of force would be used, I feel that this is something that we should, do. And I just wanted to address that.
Great. Thank you, Marquand. We'll certainly pass that message along to the sheriff. I know the sheriff is listening in this morning as well. And if we do have information on that particular training, we'll pop it in the chat for you. Next is Carol.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting the public to be a voice in this process. I have listened to all the online presentations made to the community, as well as all the sessions offering an opportunity for community input. While I think there are some points about eliminating the IPD that are worth considering, in general, this is not a realistic solution that the community as a whole will approve. Instead, I believe there are many steps that have been suggested that would improve our current system of policing in Tompkins County. For instance, utilizing a portion of the funds dedicated to IPD for other programs better trained and equipped to handle issues related to domestic violence, mental health, and addiction. I think the Camden, New Jersey model does contain many aspects worthy of consideration, such as analyzing data, creating transparency and accountability, and focusing on guarding the community. There's also the new program Cahoots, new to me anyway, that is another model worth examining. And finally, we already have several working groups, and they seem to have a closed membership, and they need additional voices added so that significant and inclusive representation is achieved in order to realistically imagine and restructure our county's system of policing. Thanks again for asking our opinions.
Great. Thank you for joining us, Carol. Next is Genevieve.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I want to echo what was said earlier about the frustrations with the city budget process and how you guys went through the process of asking for people's input and making people feel heard, and then that input wasn't reflected back in any of the city's presentation of budget stuff. And at least from what I can see, it wasn't reflected in the way that the final budget came out. And I just don't understand why we think this process should be any different. I've said before, the reason I'm here is so that people can't say that we weren't here. But just setting up Zoom meetings, having us shouted to avoid, and then passing off those comments to a board that you guys have designed that's overseeing police reform, when that board is literally just people from a bunch of different law enforcement agencies in Tompkins County. it seems fake. And I can't get excited about it. I can't feel like I'm actually being heard. And, you know, seeing who shows up to these versus like the Ithaca community at large, I can't feel like the community is being represented here either. And I know that the excuse is, oh, we're going to go do other stuff. But like, what assurance do we have that that's going to be good at all? And especially if all of the input that's sought through it is just passed on to the police. And then you say to the police, okay, guys, here's what people think about you. Figure out what you're going to do about it. Why would they do anything helpful? Why would they even imagine of making themselves a less essential and less lucrative part of society? It's, I hope the people on this call have ideas other than appearing in forums of how to achieve this. And I hope the people who are hosting these forums understand that when you give positions back to the police, raise taxes for them, and yet still cut active positions in the Department of Public Works, like that shows that you're not listening.
Thank you, Genevieve. Are there other individuals who'd like to speak this morning? Please use the raised hand feature. And again, thank you to many of those of you who are tuned in this morning, who have been here for many of our forums and provided input through these and through our other surveys as well. Next up is Kyrielle.
Hello, I just saw that Savante was here, so I wanted to read the quotes from the articles posted about Kevin Slattery again, so everyone can hear it. This is where the quote starts. I fucking pinned him against the wall. He was fighting with me, so I fucking suplexed him into the ground. Then I'm on top of him, and he's still not giving up, so I'm giving him knee strikes. I fucking knee strike him in the head. I fucking knee strike him in the back. I fucking knee strike him in the neck. Then moving on. I see that the timer hasn't started. I'm just gonna
My apologies.
Continue, but
Yeah, please do.
he said, we said, look, dude, you're going in the car. You can either go to the car with us or, you know, be dragged to the car. Then after the man said he wasn't standing up, so I grabbed one foot and he grabbed another and we fucking bounced him all the way down the stairs. Then Savante responded after the investigation and said that, sorry, let me find this quote. There's the quote. I am keenly aware that this comes at an already strained moment in IPD's relationship with the public. I continue to believe that IPD as an organization is one of the most professional police departments in the state, but there is clearly room for improvement, and we will continue to work hard of the building and maintaining a culture of respect and professionalism throughout the department. Savante, I have not seen that professionalism once. I haven't heard about anyone having a good interaction with the police. I've never seen this, so I don't know what kind of culture of respect and professionalism this reflects, but all the interactions I've seen with your officers have been very unprofessional, in fact, violent and bullying. So I would argue that your statement doesn't stand true and kind of just acts as a mask to protect you from the public. I yield my time.
Thank you, Kyrielle. Any other individuals who are on this morning who would like to lend their voice to the process? And as the mayor mentioned in his opening, we will have opportunities upcoming as well that we'll announce early next week for folks, and look forward to you participating in those, as well as continuing to invite your peers and networks to provide input in the process as well. So we'll give it a minute or so for any other individuals who'd like to use the raise hand feature, lend their voice this morning. All right, next up will be Stephanie followed by Thomas. Stephanie, you're up.
Hi, I'd like to echo people's concerns with this process. Last year on the Commons, Rose and Kaji were assaulted by members of IPD, and there were no consequences for any of the officers involved in that. The only consequences, were physical and emotional trauma to Rose and Kaji. And then October of this year, IPD wrongly arrested Messiah and arrested a bunch of other people who weren't doing anything, who were non-violently protesting, pepper sprayed a bunch of unarmed people. And there have been no consequences that I'm aware of for any of this. So I'm wondering if the policymakers who didn't see fit to discipline or make any changes as a result of these really egregious things are directing this process, what trust can there be? And I have some time left, so I would like to hear why there have been no consequences for any of this.
Great, thank you, Stephanie. In these public community voices forums, we're not directly answering questions as they come up. We are collecting all of these questions to be answered in a future session with the mayor and other leaders as well. So we will send to all the individuals who signed up this morning a link to that early next week. Monday, we'll be publishing the next steps in the process. So thank you. There was some time left if there's anything else you'd like to add.
Yes, I look forward to hearing answers to these questions. And I'd also like to say that a lot of times elected officials, say, oh, well, we make spaces available for people to come and talk, but you're not proactive about things. And also, if people aren't coming to these things, I think you should have some humility and self-reflection about why there isn't trust there.
Thank you, Stephanie. Next up is Thomas.
Hi, I'm actually a little conflicted. Oh, am I unmuted?
Nope, we can hear you. You're on.
Okay. I'm actually a little conflicted. I almost just want to yield my time, slightly related to what Ms. Stephanie said. I've already spoken at these meetings. I've filled out a survey. I haven't been able to coordinate with anyone else to make them fill out the survey or get something from them to speak on behalf of them in the meeting. You've already got a panel of people who've been policed to give advice on what to fix from the police side of things, and you've got obviously very intelligent and well-researched citizens like Genevieve, like people at Surge or the Anti-Racist Coalition who can provide a citizen's perspective of what to change in the police force. And I'm just a guy. I don't really know if my voice is important at this point. Normally I'm more eloquent than this. Sorry, that's all I've got. I guess I'm just one more voice who wants to see a little bit more of the Genevieve Rand vision and a little bit less of the Zach Wynn vision. That's all. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Thomas. And certainly every voice that we've heard throughout the process is being taken into consideration and is appreciated. So thank you to you and everyone else who's taken the time to provide your input in this process. It's very much appreciated, and it is being considered by the working groups working on reimagining public safety. So thank you, Thomas. Next up is Christopher. Hello, Christopher, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, we can hear you.
I felt like sharing that it's, as a citizen concerned that policing as a as a state function, as an idea in America, is excessively violent from the very root of its origin. It's very frustrating to think that the goal of making a more peaceful society is being reached through phrases like improving policing, changing policing, revising policing, rather than decreasing policing, cutting policing, defunding policing. I just don't know about trusting any more visions or processes that keep remolding the present system and structure. It's been molded at this point. It doesn't work. There's too much of it. There's too much policing, too much money for policing, too much support for policing. It just goes to show that in an event in Ithaca, this month-long process, years-long process, where people want to see less policing, less force, the police themselves are being invited to partake in the process of quote unquote change. As a citizen, it kind of feels like we're being duped when we ask for less policing, less.
Thank you, Christopher. Next is Leon.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi. Yeah, first of all, I'd like to say thanks to everybody involved here for taking time on the weekend to be here for this process. And to respond to what was just said, you know, I would love to see the outcome of this process actually be a reimagining of public safety. That's a great name for what I think we need to achieve. And it's never happened before. And like everyone else who's spoken recently, I'm very skeptical that it's going to happen this time. I wanted to, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Give me a sec. Oh yeah. So what I wanted to say is, I haven't been to all these forums, but I haven't heard the voices so much. I know some people here have been, you know, directly impacted by the police. I haven't really heard that many voices of people who have been directly negatively impacted by the police. I think a lot of those people might not know about these forums, might not feel comfortable speaking up in these forums, might not be technologically equipped to participate in these forums. And I think what the working groups need to do is, instead of listening to you know, us well-intentioned as we are, the working groups need to go out and talk to people who feel they have been negatively affected by the police. I can't speak for those people. I'm a white, able-bodied, you know, cisgender male, and you know, I have every possible privilege, but I want the working groups to go out and speak to the poor people in the county who suffer in interactions with the police, the people with mental health issues, people with addiction issues, and people of color especially, and go out and meet them where they are and get their input into the process. Otherwise, there's almost no point in doing the process.
Thank you, Leon. Other individuals who'd like to lend their voice this morning, feel free to use the raise hand feature, and we will add you into the list. Give it a minute or so. And again, thank you to all of those who are here this morning and have been here throughout the process, contributing and lending your voices. Next up is Lincoln.
Okay, I'm on.
Yep, good morning. You're on.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. I want to respond to an idea that I've heard come up today and yesterday. I believe we as a culture have a understanding that the violence that we experience is natural, and that the only way to protect ourselves from it is with this system of armed people that we call the police. And I believe that future societies will look at that assumption with as much smug ridicule as we look at past societies' nutty and inane ideas. I have been reading a book, which I got from the Tompkins library system. I recommend everybody. Violence, Our Deadly Epidemic and Its Causes by James Gilligan. It's about a quarter century old now, and this guy had been studying criminal violence for decades when it was published. Most crimes are not violent, and most violence is not criminal. Most of the crimes that are committed are property crimes, and most of the violence, that is man-made, non-natural injuries and deaths that occur both in the United States and throughout the world, are not caused by activities that the legal system defines as criminal. Sorry, I'm out of time.
Thank you, Lincoln. You could, if you want to share more information about that book, feel free to put it in the chat. We'll make sure all the attendees see it if they didn't catch the name, but thank you for sharing. Are there any other individuals who would like to share their voice this morning? All right, next up is Angela.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I think first I'd like to say that to say all cops are bad, that speaks to the level of ignorance and blindsided disrespect that has taken over this narrative in our country of defunding the police. The reality is that not all cops are bad. Are there bad ones? Sure, there's the bad apple in every bunch. I've had bad experiences with police. That doesn't mean that I want to abolish police and give up on law and order. And to speak to whomever or the multiple people that have said that IPD has no good interactions with the community, I mean, I think that's garbage. Honestly, if I had to speak to the police departments that I've had the best interactions with in Tompkins County, most of them would be the Ithaca Police Department. And I know it's because I'm white and I'm a woman, but I would argue that it's because I'm respectful and I'm appropriate in how I interact and how I react. And if I think something's been wrong in that interaction, I take it to the appropriate outlets. I think the other thing that's important in these forums is to remember that there are more than one side and more than one issue at play in Tompkins County, and not just this narrative of social justice and racial justice. I mean, we are a diverse community, and that also includes people on the far right of the spectrum, and we deserve to have our rights respected and protected as well. I think reimagining public safety should include remembering that public means everyone. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Next is Monique.
Good morning. I
morning.
would like to speak directly to the not all cops are bad nonsense. All cops are complicit when they do not speak up when they see these people doing wrong. And that makes them bad. There is no good about people who are silent. I find these forums to be performative. You have your diversity officer tone policing in the chat. You have it locked down now so that we are not able to warn marginalized folks, people who have been marginalized in this community and continue to be marginalized in this community, of people who wish them harm here and their intentions here in these forums. It's absolutely nonsensical. So I look forward to this becoming an actual discussion where our questions are answered, where we have actual talks about how we can reimagine public safety, because this ain't it. This is not working. I yield the rest of my time. I have nothing else to say.
Thank you, Monique. Any other individuals who'd like to lend their voice this morning? I think most everyone who's signed up has spoken. So I'll give it about 30 seconds or so, but in that I'll remind everyone that we'll be sharing more information early next week about future opportunities to engage in the process. And again, thank you to all of you who have lent your voice this morning and in previous forums. So I'll give another 30 seconds or so if anyone else would like to raise their hand, and then we'll close out.
Thank you, Dom. I'll let you close with the housekeeping. But I wanted to appreciate everybody for coming and for, I mean, there's a time to respond, so I'll respond more, but I understand why you wouldn't trust the process. I understand why you'd say, if we haven't seen the change yet, what assurance do we have that the end of this process will see change? I can just tell you, and I want to respond, I took a lot of copious notes. Let me just say this. I have been at this for a little while. I've been involved in public policy and in government for 12 years. And I've never seen, and there are a lot, and I've often felt that way too, right? Like I put in my voice and yet the outcome wasn't the same as what I wanted. How do I know for sure that people are listening? And I can't guarantee that the outcome will be the same because the outcome depends on the choices of many, many people, right? Each individual council member gets to vote. Each member of the county legislature gets to vote. Ultimately, members of the public get to vote, both for their elected officials, and then if anything goes to a referenda, they'll get to vote. So like the outcome is very hard to predict and to promise you with any certainty. What I can say in all my time doing this, I've never seen elected officials listening harder, like actually shook up, saying to themselves, maybe I don't have the answers, maybe the public does have the answer, you know, because sometimes it's the opposite. You'll hear a lot of politicians like say they want to hear from the public, but actually they already know what they want to do. I've never seen such a crisis of confidence, right? The folks who are seeking to reimagine public safety really do want to get it right. They really are not sure what they're going to do yet. And so continuing to give input at this time, I know requires a lot of faith that that input will actually be listened to. But I'm telling you, if ever there was a moment to get your good idea in, if ever there's a moment when people are listening because they're at their wit's end and they're saying, I'm open to new ideas, I truly believe this is that moment. So I hope you won't give up just because you don't know the outcome. I hope you keep at it and keep giving us your best ideas and best thoughts.
Great, thank you, Mayor. And again, thank you to everyone who's tuned in today. And one of the things I just like to remind folks is there's a lot of you who've shown up for many of these different forums, and we appreciate you contributing throughout the process. We wanted to hold 6 or so of these so that it all didn't just happen at once and people could listen to voices over time and contribute as time went on. And so we didn't just offer one opportunity for static input. So thank you again, everyone, for coming today. Again, we'll publish information early next week leading into more interactive opportunities that'll be upcoming as well. And again, just want to thank everyone for understanding during the pandemic where we can't get together in person and things have to look different. There are certain limitations, and we've taken in the feedback, and we're looking to adjust how we take input moving forward. So we'll follow up early next week with more information, but thank you to you all and everyone who's engaged in these forums throughout the process. Have a great weekend.